Madeline, thank you so much. Well, March is Women's History Month, and WTOL 11 is honoring prominent women from the Glass City's past. This week, our Jensen Strock is looking at the life of Elmina Roys Gavitt, the creator of the first women's medical journal.
Elmina Roys Gavitt isn't a well-known name in Toledo, but when it comes to the history of women's health, she certainly played more than a minor role. Elmina was born in 1828. At the start of the Civil War, she went along with her brother, a young surgeon at the time, and with him, she gained extensive clinical training and, most importantly, found her calling to enter the field of medicine. Elmina enrolled at the Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania, which was only the second institution to train women as medical doctors.
It wasn't easy to get into medical school, so often many schools didn't take women, or sometimes there was a quota for the number of women they took. And so these institutions, the Women's Medical College, arose as a way to really train larger numbers and groups of women who wanted to pursue medicine.
Eliza Chen is the executive director of the American Medical Women's Association, also known as AMWA. She says that at the time, there weren't many women in the medical field, and those who were faced heavy discrimination.
Even within the medical field, not as well regarded sometimes. Sometimes they were called, there's different names, head medics, petticoat surgeons. Even in medical school, sometimes there's this really famous, what's called the jeering episode at the Women's Medical College, where when the women medical students were walking on the street, people threw things at them and mocked them.
But Elmina never hesitated. She graduated college, and in 1869, she opened her own practice and became the pioneer medical woman in the state of Minnesota. But the climate up north proved to be a bit too harsh for Elmina, so she made the move right here to Toledo, where she did finally stay. She opened up a new practice on Huron Street, giving her another milestone as the first female doctor in our city as well.
It really does make me admire the courage of these women. As hard and as challenging as medicine today, we're not breaking those same barriers and being, the first in a town or a state. And so they really opened the path for all the women that followed after them.
Elmina was known by her colleagues as being brave, courteous, and generous, and she demonstrated those values immediately upon arrival. Elmina is said to have adopted a blind sister's 6 children. The youngest was just 2 days old. Elmina also found another kind of love here, marrying Reverend Elnathan Gavit, but her marriage didn't cause her to give up her profession. In fact, quite the opposite. She teamed up with a young writer named Margaret Rockhill and started the first ever in the nation Women's Medical Journal.
That medical journal became a very important tool, if you can imagine, to reach all the women physicians across the country.
Elmina died in August of 1898, but that's not where her impact ends. Elmina made Margaret Rockhill, her managing editor, promise to carry on the journal, which she did. And in those years following, Rockhill recognized the need for the formation of a medical organization for women. She was one of the founders of what is now the American Medical Women's Association. Elmina Roys Gavitt may not be a household name, but what she did more than 100 years ago catapulted women into a conversation where their representation was desperately needed. And she did it all right here in Toledo. But for now, reporting in Toledo, I'm Jensen Strock.
Milk.